There is no doubt 2025 saw many highlights within the deathmatch world, but none brighter than the up-and-coming talent who exploded onto the scene. As fans, we were treated to some historical title reigns, exceptional matches, downright haunting, death-defying moments, and between you and me, some of the best ultraviolet wrestling in a long time. So in this video, I'm going to showcase just a taste of this ultra violence and present you with the top 15 deathmatch wrestlers of 2025. You're going to need to keep in mind that this evaluation is based on performance, notable victories, tournament success rate, along with other achievements and different accomplishments. AKA, wins still matter here, people. And per usual, I need to add in a little disclaimer here that this list, it will not include any deathmatch wrestling from Japan because I simply don't feel comfortable enough with their scene to accurately assess them. Now, with all that said, I hope you are ready for this ultra-violent journey through 2025. Let's get the countdown started. Number 15, Lil Sicko. The ringmaster himself was pretty hard to rank this year, but he just made the cut as the number 15 deathmatch wrestler of the year. While his win percentage was not impressive in the slightest, he did go on to win two pretty big titles in grand ways. First was the IWA Heavyweight Championship that he took off of Bryant Woods after feuding with him for the entire year, but not only did he finally pry that title away from the big man, he also retired him from professional wrestling. Then we got that match of the year nominated battle with Drake Younger that took place in RPW for the Rust Belt title, and I don't think I was the only one shocked when Sicko scored that pinfall to leave as the champion.
Beyond an upset, beyond an underdog victory, Little Sicko earned this.
So with all those major highlights, along with his 4 deathmatch tournament appearances, all of which proved to be very memorable by the way, especially the Death Wish Cup, where he locked himself in as one of the most must-see deathmatch wrestlers on the indie scene. Because that's the other big factor going into this ranking. Sicko was quickly thrown into matches with all of the other top guys going today. I'm talking Murdoch, Hoodfoot, Dr. Redacted, Tommy Trainwreck, JJ Escobar, Chuck Stein, JD Horror, Drake Younger, Schlack, and also many other guys making waves like Bear Bronson, Mr. Danger, and Bobby V. Yes, the majority of those matches resulted in losses, but Sicko proved that he could not only hang, but show out against every single one of them. If Lil Sicko continues to be one of the most in-demand deathmatch wrestlers going forward, he is bound to pick up more of those wins and shoot right up these rankings next year. Number 14, Dread. Judge Joe Dredd had a ton of momentum coming into 2025, and I believe he capitalized on it in a big way. He and Steven Jury took CZW, 7, and Circle 6 all by storm, becoming a main eventer in each promotion. In April, he won the Circle 6 World Championship from Matthew Justice, putting an end to his 550-day reign as champion. After holding on to the title just shy of 200 days himself, he happened to lose it to Cruel in a wild ambulance match at Circle 6's Thriller. In August, Joe would drop the Judge title from his name, going simply by Dread from here on out. The very next month, he would make it back to his second straight Tournament of Death final, where he fell from a scaffold through an exploding table and then was suffocated, followed by being dumped onto his head in a pool of blood and rain to lose to Schlack. That was a tough day at the office. So how did he respond? The very next month, Dredd entered 7's King of the Death matches to go to war with the Necro Butcher in a match that nearly won Jobber Radio's Match of the Year, which was voted on by the fans. He did beat Necro, but would lose to Arrow Boy in round 2, and Arrow Boy would actually go on to win the whole thing. Dredd would have some other highlights sprinkled in, with one of them being his nearly year-long feud with Nick Gage, culminating in their TOD 22 first-round match. Dredd would also team up with Alex Colon as Blood Fighter to put on some pretty eye-catching performances. In what was yet another rock-solid year for Dredd, his biggest contribution was his intriguing promos, which continue to captivate and keep the deathmatch wrestling fans hooked. Number 13, Eric Dillinger. Eric Dillinger makes his return back into the top 15 for the first time since 2022, and he turned in quite the year. As of this moment in time, you're not really going to find a better hybrid deathmatch wrestler on a match-by-match basis than Dillinger. I think it's safe to say that his biggest in-ring accomplishment this year came at RPW's King of the Kill 3 tournament, where he put up 4 hard-fought battles, beating Dale Patricks, Jack Harrop, Masada, and Schlack all in one day. I mean, talk about a gauntlet there. Who else can say they even came close to doing that this year? He walked out of that tournament with the RPW World Championship and remains the champ going into 2026. That would be the only deathmatch tournament he would compete in this year, but going 1-for-1 isn't bad, especially with all those opponents. But that wasn't the only title that Dillinger held this year. He would dethrone Chuck Stein, who held the Horror Slam Deathmatch Championship for 532 days. That title change came in February, but I will say his run was a little short-lived. He dropped the belt to Tommy Trainwreck the very next month. The win percentage, it was good, but the key thing holding Eric back was the number of overall death matches. He did have a couple of bloody brawls with Sage Phillips for House of Heat, an old school strap match with Dread. He tried to take the unsanctioned pro hardcore title away from Neil Diamond Cutter, and he had a couple of barn burners with Atticus Koger and Akira for WLW, but outside of King of the Kill 3, the rest of his success came outside of the deathmatch world. And a lot of those tag team matches with partner Josh Crane brought in a lot of those outside successes. So going into 2026, Public Enemy #1 Eric Dillinger looks primed to get more spotlight. It's just a matter of who will give him those opportunities. Number 12, Tommy Trainwreck. Between nearly dominating Horror Slam and ICW Milwaukee, and wrestling in nearly 50 death matches, on top of running his own company, We Love Wrestling, Tommy Trainwreck had quite a busy 2025. He went on to win his second career deathmatch tournament when he won the Insane 8 in August, and I'm not kidding, very few wrestlers were as busy as Tommy was this year, and though his win percentage isn't above 500, that was due to his competition stepping up in a big way. In the 4 deathmatch tournaments that he competed in, 3 of them he made it into the finals. As I already said, he won the Insane 8, but he also challenged for the 15th Carnage Cup and found his way into the finals of the Murder City Deathmatch Cup for a second year in a row. He scored some pretty high-profile wins over guys like Dr. Redacted, Madman Pondo, Malcolm Monroe III, Orin Veidt, and perhaps his biggest victory of the year, he successfully defended that Horror Slam Deathmatch title against John Wayne Murdoch in a record-breaking 50 panes of glass match. And speaking of titles, he had 3 separate reigns in total this year, one being that Horror Slam Deathmatch title, the other 2 coming from ICW Milwaukee, where he briefly held their World Championship, along with his 4th, a record 4th by the way, alternative title reign. He did get more opportunities for RPW and ICW No Holds Barred, where he faced opponents like the UK's B.A. Rose, Hoodfoot, Dr. Redacted, Tank, Sean Campbell, and Chuck Stein, but I will say oftentimes he did find himself on the losing end there. But that can be expected when your level of competition takes a little bit of a step up. But Trainwreck actually had everything else going for him this year. He just needed to turn a little bit more of those matches into victories. Number 11, Hoodfoot. Hoodfoot Mo Atlas got off to a hot start in 2025 with a schedule full of death matches, including one against Nathan Mowry at ICW No Holds Barred's Volume 68 show. I hope you didn't miss it because it gained huge praise as both of these guys turned in a fantastic match, garnering a Deathmatch of the Year nomination. While Hoodfoot continues to be one of the most active deathmatch tournament wrestlers out there, he didn't find much success this year. He took first round losses in Seven's King of the Death matches, CZW's Tournament of Death 22, and RPW's King of the Kill 3. In fact, the only tournament that he managed to pick up a win in was We Love Wrestling's Death Wish Cup, though he was soon eliminated in the second round by Remington Roar. Hoodfoot would find his way back to GCW to try and win a qualifying match for the Tournament of Survival, but Dr. Redacted denied him of that opportunity. Even though I'm mentioning a lot of losses right now, and that tournament success, it didn't really hold up. Those were all high-quality opponents and a lot of high-quality tournaments. But I will say he did find a lot of success when it came to titles. He became the second ever 7 ultraviolet champion after beating Bobby Beverly, and he also held the RPW world title through the majority of the year before losing it to Jack Harrop in the first round of the King of the Kill. Hoodfoot also challenged for 4 other titles for XICW, Circle 6, Horror Slam, and ICW No Holds Barred, but would have to settle for just 3 reigns this year, which is more than most in the list can say. It cannot be disputed that Hoodfoot continues to face and beat all of the other top deathmatch stars in the scene, as well as a lot of other up-and-coming talent like Lil Sicko, Jameson Shook, Nathan Mallory, Sean Campbell, and Phil Insane. I also need to highlight his Flophouse title defense against Paul London of all people, along with his very rare death match against Human Tornado. Yeah, so it's been a pretty wild and memorable year for Hoodfoot to say the least, but with that lack of deathmatch tournament success, it holds him just out of the top 10 this year, sadly. Number 10, Dr. Redacted. The Murder Surgeon is back in the top 10 ranking of deathmatch wrestlers after missing out on the top 15 last year. He improved a rough 30.7% win percentage in 2024 to a very impressive 62.5% win percentage in 2025. And it's a little crazy to me that he didn't win a title again this year and hasn't held a belt since 2023, but I mean, he did get multiple chances at least. His first attempt was for the GCW Ultraviolet and Extreme title in the Hammerstein Ballroom in January, and he would even challenge Effie for the GCW World title in March. For ICW's Japan tour, he would get a one-on-one match against Masashi Takeda, really good match by the way, but that was for the American Deathmatch title. He would get one more crack at the GCW Ultraviolet title, but Tremont would deny him in Los Angeles. And he would also try his luck one more time for ICW's American Deathmatch title. This time it would be against John Wayne Murdoch in October.
Head hook, face first!
And finally, him and Jimmy Controversy would challenge Chuck Stein for the Horror Slam Deathmatch title at their Bloody Christmas event. Now that is a lot of title matches, but as I said, all resulted in a loss. Those losses would not keep coming though like they did last year. Redacted entered WLW's first Death Wish Cup, where he sent Dysfunction home in round 1, bounced Neil Diamond Cutter in the semifinals, and then won the tournament against John Wayne Murdoch and Remington Roar. This marked Redacted's 3rd deathmatch tournament win, alongside his Wrestle Raves Death Triad 2 and his ICW Insane 8 2023 win. Now his Tournament of Survival and Insane 8 showings this year left a little more to be desired, as he was taken out in the first round of those. There were plenty of other highlights this year though, as Doc found himself in some fun tag team death matches with different partners like Danny DeMonto, Mr. Danger, Joey Janela, and Wakamatsu. And I think he works great in the tag team setting. It's something new that we really haven't seen him do yet. His match against Big F and Joe at RPW's Miasma 2 was just pure chaos. It spilled out into the parking lot, where Redacted hung out of a window of what looked like a dune buggy. He also got to fight Bobby Beverly out in the middle of a park, which is, this is kind of cool. There was one match that Redacted said he wanted for a long time, and that was against Ultramanus Black, and he got that match at the homecoming weekend for GCW. I also want to point this one out because his match with JB Anderson made him profess to the world that he hates carpet strips. In the end, the wins were all there this year. Hardly anyone on the independents, I'm talking deathmatch wrestling or not, can match his intensity and must-watch ability. He is a fan favorite for a reason. And on top of that, he locked in another deathmatch tournament win. So now there is just one final missing piece to Dr. Redacted's top 5 puzzle, and that is Championship Gold. Number 9, John Wayne Murdoch. John Wayne Murdoch shocked deathmatch wrestling fans just 4 days into the year by returning to ICW No Holds Barred to beat the holy hell out of Danny DeMonto. This was not only a big surprise, but also a great match that is without a doubt a must-see from 2025. Afterwards, IWTV would release a sit-down discussion where the two would hash out their differences and talk about what led to Murdoch stepping away and returning to the company. That didn't mean that Murdoch left GCW though, as that seemed to be his primary home base last year. He had some mixed success with them. He had standout matches with Mr. Danger, Matt Tremont, Cyclope, and the Pillars, but when he was representing GCW in their War Against Juggalo Championship Wrestling, it unfortunately led to one of the scariest moments all year long. Mickey Knuckles poured alcohol all over this door and lit it on fire. Murdoch was completely engulfed in flames after that suplex, and it felt like years before he was put out. Like I said, scary, scary stuff here, and obviously it led to severe burns and a little bit of missed time in the ring. Another major headline that Murdoch made was the announcement of his last deathmatch tournament. On social media, he made it known that GCW's Tournament of Survival 10 would be his last one. He put in a good effort too, because he took out Mr. Danger in the first round, but he would lose to Otis Koger in the semifinals. The only other tournament that he took part in was 3 months prior for We Love Wrestling in their Death Wish Cup. He ousted Dmitry Alexandrov in the opening round, and then just as he did for Mr. Danger in GCW, he helped solidify the up-and-coming Lil Sicko, kind of just giving him his seal of approval to the fans. He did compete in the finals, well, technically, but he was eliminated like 10 seconds into the match. John would also challenge Tommy Trainwreck for the Horror Slam Deathmatch title in a history-making 50 panes of glass match. It looked like he won the title for a second, but decided to continue the match until all 50 panes were broke, and in turn, it cost him the belt. But the final big chunk to Murdoch's 2025 that we need to highlight is what some may call his triumphant return to ICW No Holds Barred. He would head back to Japan for ICW's tour in mid-June, where he put on a series of fantastic matches, including his one-on-one with Masashi Takeda, where he would take the ICW American Deathmatch title off of him. With that win, Murdoch became only the second two-time champ, the other being Joel Bateman, of course. John would go on for the next 6 months defending that title against everyone put in his path. I'm talking Hoodfoot, Akira, Toshiyuki Sakuda, Jameson Shook, Dr. Redacted, Vixen, Bobby Beverly, Dale Patricks, and we even got a rematch with Danny DeMonto. Ironically enough, he would be Murdoch's first and last opponent of 2025. So yeah, it has been a strong second reign so far, to say the least, and we just kind of need Murdoch to stay away from fire, and he should be good.
Oh my fucking god!
Unbelievable
Guys, holy
violence!
shit! This is fucking insane!
This was another solid year for John Wayne Murdoch overall, with lots of memorable highlights, and as long as he keeps kicking people in the balls, I think he's going to remain pretty dominant going forward. Number 8, Bear Bronson. Dear Lord, I'm not sure I've ever seen someone burst onto the scene and become such a major player as quickly as Bear Bronson has this year. Since making his deathmatch debut in June, Bear Bronson has taken part in just 16 death matches and has become the most in-demand deathmatch wrestler today. Speaking of that debut, he took on Slade in the opening match of GCW's Cage of Survival 4, and those guys completely stole the show. And if you haven't seen that match, do yourself a favor and go seek it out. And if you've already seen it, go watch it again, because those guys nabbed Jobber Radio's Deathmatch of the Year award. And that wouldn't be the only award Bronson would snag either, because he took home Tournament Performance of the Year, more on that in a second, and he also won Breakout Star of the Year because, duh. In his tag matches with Matt Tremont as Bear Dozer, they almost won Tag Team of the Year. So going back to that Tournament Performance of the Year, Bear Bronson competed in his first ever deathmatch tournament. It was GCW's Nick Gage Invitational 10, where he took out Slade in the first round, Jack Harrop in the second round, and Otis Koger in the finals. It was just a really good tournament overall, and this helped solidify 2025 as the year Bear Bronson arrived. So on top of all of those accomplishments, he only lost 4 matches in total, which is kind of unheard of. He did lose that debut match against Slade. He lost another nominated match of the year against Matt Tremont. That was at GCW's Homecoming Weekend show for the Ultraviolet title. Cruel and Shotzi handed Bear and Gabby a loss at November Kinrana. And to close out the year, he lost the IWTV Independent World title to Cruel At Beyond's Heavy Lies the Crown. That match ended up being pretty underrated itself, that I think you need to go out and see. But as you're noticing here, those were the only 4 deathmatch losses he had this year. In just 6 short months, Bronson has paved a path of blood, beating nearly everyone he faced, winning tournaments and high-profile matches against top talent. So, how is he ranked at number 8, you ask? Well, for one, this list is extremely loaded, as you're about to find out, but also ranking him any higher for just half a year just doesn't feel right. Now, without a doubt, if his matches were doubled and he did this for the full year, I believe he would be ranked number 1 by like a mile. But the real question is that going to be in the cards for 2026? Only time will tell. Number 7, Bobby Beverly. It will be hard to argue that the Bev did not have the strongest start of any other deathmatch wrestler in the world. In a matter of 2 weeks, around WrestleMania time, Bobby Beverly would beat Remington Roar, ending his 525-day reign as RPW Kamikaze Champion. He teamed up with Nick Gage to take on Masada and Schlack for 7. He challenged Matt Tremont for the GCW Ultraviolet Championship. He beat Atticus Cogar to become the ICW American Deathmatch Champion. And then he had a Match of the Year nominated contest against Masashi Takeda, where he did lose the American Deathmatch title, but still, all of those things all happened within a 2-week span. Not a single person was main eventing more high-profile matchups, at least in the deathmatch world, than Bobby Beverly was. When breaking down what deathmatch titles the Bev held in 2025, you may just be looking at the most impressive reigns out of anybody on this list. He held that ICW American Deathmatch title, as I just pointed out, even if it was for only one night, and after beating Remington Roar for his RPW Kamikaze title, he held on to it through the rest of the year and is still champion going into 2026. If you remember, Bobby even came into this year as Seven's first ever Ultraviolet champion, but after 287 days, he lost the title to a surprise crucifix pin at the hands of Hoodfoot. So that is 3 pretty well-regarded titles, and that's not too shabby if you ask me. After taking 2024 off from deathmatch tournaments, he came back in a big way, beating Jimmy Chondo Lion and Angel Metro in the first 2 rounds of XPW's Wicked 13 tournament, but he did lose in the finals against Mickey Knuckles. He made it into the second round of Seven's King of the Death matches after beating Nate Webb in the first round, but fell to Dale Patricks in round 2. Most people didn't even pick up on this, but besides Otis Cogar and Mr. Danger, Beverly was the only man to compete in GCW's 2 flagship tournaments this year, the Tournament of Survival 10, as well as the 10th Nick Gage Invitational. So with all of these accomplishments and big wins, this happens to be a pretty notable year for the nearly 20-year veteran. I will say, though, the second half of the year was nowhere near as strong. In fact, the last win he picked up in 2025 was on October 4th. Yeah, even with notable matches like his American Deathmatch title match against John Wayne Murdoch, everything kind of just resulted in a loss. If he would have just been able to keep that momentum going like he had at the beginning of the year, we may have been looking at Beverly sitting safely in a top 3 spot. But before moving on, I want to point out real quick that Otis Cogar and Bobby Beverly fought each other on 6 different occasions for 3 different companies, and they ended up tied at 3 wins apiece. They were true rivals this year, and I'm curious to see if they get to break that tie going into 2026. Number 6, Jack Harrop. I'm kind of at a loss of words here. This is just an unbelievable breakout year for Jack Harrop. I think it's pretty safe to say the son of deathmatch veteran Iceman stepped out of his father's shadow and looks to be carving a path of his own. Now, only one person in the world fought in more deathmatch tournaments this year than Jack Harrop did, but let's look at his list first. Count that, Jack competed in 7 different deathmatch tournaments between the US, the UK, and Australia. Here we go. So he made it to the semifinals of TNT Extreme's DOA tournament. He was knocked out by Drew Parker in TNT's Thrill Kill 2025, but he did get his revenge by eliminating Parker in the first round of GCW's Nick Gage Invitational 10, but he lost to Bear Bronson in round 2. For Deathmatch Down Under, he made it to the second round of the Dream tournament, but couldn't get past Neil Diamond Cutter. For RPW, he beat Hoodfoot in round 1, becoming the RPW World Champion, a bit of a shock there, but he lost the belt to Eric Dillinger in his next match. Then we got the two big ones. Now, Jack had a great year for Bleeding Gums Wrestling. He won their second Lust for Death tournament, taking out the British top team in round 1. He landed a hard-fought win over Big F and Joe in the semifinals, and then shocked everyone by besting Mickey Knuckles in the finals to win his first ever deathmatch tournament. And then just 6 months later in October, he won his second. Because at Rise Underground's Games of Death 4, he made quick work of Jack Bennett in round 1. Once again, he got the better of Drew Parker in round 2. And then in a 4-way elimination match, he outlasted Michael Caden, Iceman, and Franco Fate. Even his own father betrayed him afterwards, but still, it was a major win nonetheless. I know that was a lot, but I hope you got most of it at least. Now, we've covered a lot of record-breaking moments in 2025 so far, but how about one more? Jack and Iceman traveled to the US and RPW to fight to the near death in a typhoon of 1,000 light tubes match. That is a correct thing I just said right there. 1,000 light tubes. In the end, Jack Harrop defeated his father, and I believe the two said this may be their last ever one-on-one match against each other. This was brutal, this was emotional, and I think it is a must-watch match. In just 4 years into his career, Jack Harrop has officially blown up on the scene, already beating all of the UK's best wrestlers, and now it seems he's well on his way to do the same in the United States. I mean, he already held the RPW World title, and even though Bleeding Gums did shut down their operations, he happened to be their last ever UK Deathmatch champion this year. And speaking of that, eat your heart out, Shawn Michaels. Number 5, Mickey Knuckles. You know, it's getting really hard to find new ways to keep saying that Mickey Knuckles is one of the greatest deathmatch wrestlers ever. But without fail, she keeps proving it year after year. And I'm going to have to do a little bit more research on this, but I believe Mickey Knuckles may have just competed in the most deathmatch tournaments in a single year than anybody else, with 10. She fought in 23 deathmatch tournament matches alone this year. Guys, that is more matches than some people had on this list all year, period. You see the list of tournaments this year. I would have to do a whole video just naming them all and breaking down each one of them, so I'm just going to hit a couple of the highlights. Since 2023, so 3 straight years, Mickey Knuckles has won 2 deathmatch tournaments each year. For 2025, she won the Florida Deathmatch Carnival in January, beating Satu Jin in the finals, and then for XPW at their Wicked 13 tournament, she went through Kevin Chaos, Nick Gage, Bobby Beverly, and Eric Ryan to win her second tournament. That win was also significant because it would officially tie her for the most deathmatch tournament wins in the world, tied with John Wayne Murdoch and Matt Tremont with 10. So over her 10 tournaments this year, only half were in the United States, with 1 being in Japan, 2 were in the UK, 1 was in Canada, and the other in Australia. Yep, Aunt Mickey was truly a globetrotter this year. She was also the second most active deathmatch wrestler this year, despite almost losing an eye and suffering some major health scares along the way.
Mama didn't raise a goddamn bitch!
Her win percentage this year also saw an uptick, reaching nearly 60%, which means this statistically was one of her best years. But if you followed Mickey Knuckles over time like I have, you know the fun times are always going to override those wins or losses. We would have got to see more Mickey in that GCW versus JCW rivalry, but sadly she was pulled after the roasting of John Wayne Murdoch. When you travel the world like Mickey did this year, it's no surprise to find out that she wrestled in more companies than she ever has before, and she made it clear that she is not going to slow down anytime soon. So now for the only downside of Mickey's 2025, and I know that sounds weird to say because this year has been so great to her, but I have to mention that she failed to capture any singles deathmatch title. I will say she did get plenty of opportunities though, like wrestling for the WLW Pure Heart title, the Horror Slam Deathmatch title, and even the Death Proof Tough as Nails belt, but none of that obviously panned out, which happens to be the only hit on Mickey's fantastic 2025. Number 4, Shlak. Don't let the lowest rank for Shlak in the last 3 years fool you, because he is still the most dominant deathmatch wrestler in the world at this point, and he still put together a top-tier year. He was a little more active than he has been over the past several years, even after suffering an injury early on, and you can still count on one hand all of his losses. Shlak entered 2025 the RPW Rust Belt champion, defending it against Dale Patricks in January, and then again against Journey Fatu in March. Then during WrestleMania weekend at RPW's Miasma 2, Shlak was supposed to defend the title against Ricky Shane Page, but couldn't due to that injury. So Drake Younger was handpicked by Shlak to stand in for him and defend the title against Page. Drake Younger won that match, but decided to keep the title for himself. So yeah, just like that, Shlak lost the title without ever losing a match, and it wouldn't be until November when Shlak finally got an opportunity at the title he never lost, and he beat Lil Sicko to claim the title for a second time this year. That would be the only title that Shlak held on to this year, but it wouldn't be his biggest accomplishment, because on September 6th, in the pouring down rain, Shlak would finally capture that Tournament of Death trophy. Looking back, he almost made Tim Strange bleed out in the first round. He wiped out Eric Ryan and the defending TOD winner Mickey Knuckles in round 2, and then yeeted Dredd off of a scaffold, choked him out, and then planted him down onto his head to take the win. Now, TOD 22 won Deathmatch Tournament of the Year honors, and the man holding that trophy high at the end of the day was Shlak. The rest of 2025 saw plenty more solid matches, like when he did get to fight Ricky Shane Page for Beyond, his BCW matches against Shane Mercer, Colby Carino, and Beastman, and he had a little too much fun destroying Jimmy Controversy as Party Shlak in CZW.
When I think of Shlak, I think of violence, I think of blood, I don't think of balloons.
Yeah, Party Shlak was a good time. So fans were shocked to see him lose the King of the Kill crown to Eric Dillinger in August. And actually looking back at August, Shlak went an extremely rare 0-3, losing to Andy Williams and El Negro as well. Without a doubt, there was a lot of great stuff to look back on this year, but even as stacked as 2025 was for Shlak, he still missed out on the top 3. Number 3, Masada. The ultraviolet beast hasn't been this active in the ring since 2016, and he clearly made the absolute most of his time. During 2025, Masada would become the face of 7 and would go on to win the 7 Ultraviolet Championship from Hoodfoot in June, a belt he still has heading into 2026. Now, while he found success elsewhere as well, his matches against guys like Nick Gage, Remington Roar, Phil Insane, Tank, Nathan Mallory, Journey Fatu, Rob Shit, Killa Cash, and yes, even One Man Crew is why 7 dominated his focus. When it came to tournament action, Masada had a scary incident for RPW at King of the Kill 3. He made it to the tournament finals after beating UK legend Iceman in the first round, and then Eric Ryan in round 2. But at the end of his match against Eric Dillinger, something went wrong, and apparently Masada lost all feeling in his legs and he couldn't get up. Like I said, it was a scary moment, but luckily he regained that feeling and was up and hanging out with fans afterwards, I'm told. Crazy enough, just 2 months later, he made his way to Arizona for the Arizona Deathmatch Company's Death in the Desert tournament. And I feel like this tournament didn't get enough eyes on it, by the way, so it's all on YouTube right now. Go check it out after this video. So Masada made it to the finals of that tournament as well, putting a hurting on Hardcore in the first round and Sage Sin in the second, but nobody was beating Neil Diamond Cutter on that night, not even Abdullah Kobayashi. Now, I want to be clear here, I know Masada and Rina Yamashita won BJW's King of the Deathmatch World GP2 on New Year's Eve, and that's an outstanding accomplishment. This was Masada's 8th tournament win, but due to me not factoring in Japanese companies, I unfortunately did not take that into consideration for this video. I have to be fair. I do want to highlight another title that Masada won in 2025, even though it's more of like a one-time deal type thing. I gotta say, the RPW Bleed for the Cause title looks awesome. Masada won a qualifying match against Casanova Valentine earlier in the night, and then defeated Dave Reckoning, Eric Ryan, and Hoodfoot on September 20th to walk away with that title. Oddly enough, Masada also fought Jinder Mahal this year, but the less we talk about that match, I think the better. And instead of talking about Masada murdering the body, I'm going to let you listen to it for yourself.
There you go!
So it appears after a few years of ramping back up, Masada looks to be back to his dominant self when you lose only 3 death matches all year long, 2 of them being in tournament finals and 1 being to Nick Gage. Yeah, that says a lot. Number 2, Neil Diamond Cutter. What a farewell tour for everybody's favorite Honey Badger. This was the last full in-ring year we will get from Neil, as he announced his last match will take place in 2026, where he finally will get his hands on the crazy monkey, Jun Kasai. I honestly didn't expect Neil to hold more deathmatch titles than anyone else this year, and in fact, in his career, he only held 9 total deathmatch championships, with 5 of those coming in 2025. That right there, my friends, is how you go out with a bang. He started out still the H2O Danny Havoc Hardcore Champion, and due to some of those question marks floating around H2O right now, it doesn't look like he's going to ever lose that title. He won his 4th unsanctioned Pro Hardcore Championship, defending it most of this year before losing it to Anakin Murphy in November. Danny DeMonto won the Kiwi Death title as well as the Deathmatch Down Under All Extreme Championship when ICW No Holds Barred toured over in Australia in August. Fast forward to October, and DeMonto would face Neil Diamond Cutter for the last time, and that is where Neil shocked everybody, winning both of those titles. Then came the We Love Wrestling Pure Heart Championship, which both Bobby V and Neil Diamond Cutter helped put on the Deathmatch map as one of the better Deathmatch titles this year. If you missed out on any of their title defenses, I think you owe it to yourself to seek some of those matches out. So as of the end of this year, Neil still holds both the Pure Heart title and, I guess technically, the H2O Danny Havoc Hardcore title belt. But for a guy who was never really seen as a champion, I'm really happy Neil has been able to show the other promoters out there that they kind of missed out. Looking over now at his deathmatch tournament history, Neil did not disappoint. I mean, you should know by now that if there's a tournament going on somewhere out there, Neil Diamond Cutter is your guy. He fought in 15 matches over 7 different tournaments, making it to the finals in 4 of them, aka over half that he competed in. He only managed to win Arizona Death Company's first Death in the Desert tournament, where he impressively took out JD Horror, Abdullah Kobayashi, and Masada. Quite the run right there, folks. You know I love my crazy stats, and this is definitely one of them. Neil made it to his 5th Slave to the Deathmatch finals for their 16th tournament this year. He appeared in the last 4 finals in a row. Now, Satujin was the man to take him out this year, though. Bobby V took him out in the first round of the Insane 8 this year, as Eric Ryan did the same in 7's King of the Death matches. He tried to make a little bit of a run in WLW's Death Wish Cup, but Dr. Redacted would eliminate him in the second round. He made it to the finals of both the Dream Tournament for Deathmatch Down Under and the return of Unsanctioned Pros Hardcore Cup. That's where he would defend the Hardcore title in each round, but lost it in the end to Anakin Murphy. So, tournament matches overloaded, title matches stacked, win percentage, one of the best of his entire career, just over 65%, and when it comes to match quality, point me to one bad Neil Diamond Cutter match. I know I say that a lot, but my point still stands. Nobody has been able to do that yet. A large majority of Neil's 2025 matches held weight being in a tournament or for some gold, or like one of his last goodbye matches. Everything absolutely clicked this year, and as I already said off the top, This right here is how you go out with a bang. I just hope Neil is proud with his work that he put in this year. Before we get to that number 1 spot, let's take a quick look back at 5 honorable mentions. Casanova Valentine kick-started 2025, winning the Unsanctioned Pro Hardcore Championship and defended that title for 5 months until he lost it to Neil Diamond Cutter in May. Cass won matches on the East Coast, he won matches on the West Coast, and he would later pack his bags for a little world tour, hitting up the UK and China, winning matches out there as well. But then the unthinkable happened when he turned his back on the New Fear City fans, going all Hollywood, and dethroned Gabriel Sky to win the NFC No Ring Deathmatch title in July, and he would defend that all the way through this year. The lone deathmatch tournament that Valentine took part in was for Rise Underground. It was their Games of Death 4, where he was eliminated in the first round by Franco Fate. So, while Cass and Hollywood Cass, for that matter, saw plenty of success, I will say most of it came in New Fear City, where he ended the year with an 11-1 record. So even after a couple strong title reigns, the lack of success against opponents outside of NFC kind of held him back just a little bit, but nonetheless, it still was a solid year for Casanova Valentine. Michael Kruger turned in quite a year, winning just over 60% of his matches, and after winning the Crimson Crown Supreme Violence title from Carnage and winning his first deathmatch tournament in 7 years, he nearly made the cut. The only thing holding Kruger back was his lack of overall matches. He did compete in 4 different deathmatch tournaments though, being taken out by Remington Roar in the first round of WLW's Death Wish Cup, and he made it to the finals of Primo's 16th Slave to the Death match, where Satu Jin, who also had a very good year, snagged that trophy. But he saw another early first round exit when he lost to Abdullah Kobayashi in the Arizona Deathmatch Company's Death in the Desert tournament. But now we got to talk about the tournament that he did win this year. The last tournament on the left, it was held in October, and it was an all horror movie themed tournament where he beat Jimmy Controversy in the first round, The Body in round number 2, and then he would finish it off with Sage Sin Supreme in the finals. This was a unique and just overall fun tournament. It was hosted by Flesh Wound Features, and I recommend that you go check it out sometime. So with all of that said, this was a good year for Kruger, but he did need some more high-profile matches and just more matches in general to crack that top 15 mark. Over the past couple years, Chuck Stein has proved to be one of the most consistent deathmatch wrestlers in the United States. He still rules the Michigan scene in 2025, and anytime ICW, RPW, Flophouse, or WLW are in town, you can bet the Dirty White Boy will be on that card and he will be showing out. The overwhelming majority of his success, though, still comes from Horror Slam, where he started out 2025 their deathmatch champion. He did lose that title to Eric Dillinger in February, but after fighting and clawing his way back, he won his second Murder City Deathmatch Cup in October and won the title back from Tommy Trainwreck. Now sitting on his, believe it or not, 6th reign as Horror Slam Deathmatch champion, he will be walking into yet another year with that title in his possession. For me personally, it's tough to see Chuck fail to make the top 15 again, but 3 straight years in the top 20 is nothing to sneeze at, people. It feels wrong to leave Akira off the list this year because of the awesome things he accomplished in Japan during the first half of 2025. Winning the Big Japan Wrestling Deathmatch Championship was a huge deal, especially considering the fact that only 3 Americans have held that title since its introduction in 1998. And he had a solid run with that title, highlighted by what a lot of people named their match of the year when he took on Dale Patricks in May. Once Akira returned back to the United States, he soon declared that he would only wrestle death matches on a limited basis and named CZW's Tournament of Death 22 as his last deathmatch tournament. Now this is kind of hard to believe, and I myself was shocked to see it, that Akira only won 7 death matches in the United States once he returned from that hot run in Japan. So mainly time prevents me from keeping up with all of the deathmatch wrestling going on in Japan, but I did follow Akira's journey and it felt special. But I just can't count only his tour and ignore everything for everybody else, so unfortunately, he did miss the list again this year. A lot of these nominations hurt, but this one probably hurts the most. Otis Cogar is so primed for success next year, it isn't even funny. Now, 2025 was a solid year for the 10-year veteran. He was being featured in main events for both ICW No Holds Barred and GCW. His match of the year nominated American Deathmatch title fight against his brother Atticus in the UK back in March was a must-see for deathmatch fans. That performance was a sign of things to come because later in the year he would challenge Tremont for his GCW ultraviolet title on 2 different occasions, by the way, one being in the finals of the 10th Tournament of Survival. In his only other deathmatch tournament appearance of the year, he made it to the finals of that tournament too, where he lost to Bear Bronson in GCW's Nick Gage Invitational 10. I think you've probably noticed the trend here that I haven't mentioned a lot of winning in those high-profile appearances. And that, along with no title reigns, is what really holds him out of the top 15. It's not like Otis lost a ton this year. He held wins over Dale Patricks, Jack Harrop, Remington Roar, Nathan Mowry, Slade, Emerson Jane, as well as a few others, but in every high-profile title fight or tournament final, he came up on the losing end. What Otis will probably be remembered for the most in 2025 was helping form Vandal 48 and running roughshod over GCW alongside Atticus and Christian Napier. So yes, overall this was a year to remember for Otis, and even though this doesn't factor into anything, I want to point out that Otis shed some weight and looks like an absolute beast ready to dominate 2026. I hope you all are ready for that. And number 1, Matt Tremont. The Bulldozer won the fans' vote for Deathmatch Wrestler of the Year, and I 100% agree. And I really can't believe I'm about to say this, but 2025, on paper, was probably the best, maybe second best, full year of his career. Right out of the gate in January, Tremont won a 9-person ladder match in the Hammerstein Ballroom for GCW. That's where he won the Extreme and Ultraviolet titles, unifying them. Then over the next 12 months, he would defend that title 24 times. Now that's not a typo. He defended the title on average 2 times a month all year long and ends 2025 still the champion. Hell, if you just include his ultraviolet title matches, throw everything else out the window, he probably still makes the top 5 pretty easy. Just listen to this list of challengers who all stepped up and failed. Beastman, Otis Cogar, multiple times by the way, Mance Warner, Slade, Jimmy Lloyd, Ruckus, believe it or not, Bobby Beverly multiple times, Shotzi frickin' Blackheart, Too Tough Tony, Ultra Manus Black, John Wayne Murdoch, Masashi Takeda, Gary J, Mad Dog Conley, Super Crazy, Arez, Billy Starks, Dr. Redacted, Adam Priest, Damien 666, Joshua Bishop, and last but certainly not least, Bear Bronson. What an insane list that is, but his match against Bear Bronson just barely lost Match of the Year in the voting, which, crazy enough, would have landed Tremont 3 straight years with that award. Either way, though, it was a fantastic match with both guys giving it their all, and that built respect for one another, actually helping them form the tag team Beardozer. They would put a good beating on the entire GCW tag team division, seeing them go undefeated, and who knows, maybe we'll get some more of them in the near future. During a big chunk of this year, Tremont would lead GCW up against Juggalo Championship Wrestling in their major promotional war. That is where we would see Matt win the JCW heavyweight title from Madman Pondo, before later losing it back to Too Tough Tony. And as most wars do, they conclude inside the War Games match, and we got a brutal one here, seeing Tremont lead Team GCW to victory over JCW. By the way, yes, the Bulldozer did have matches outside of GCW this year, but that was his primary focus, no doubt about it. Walking into this year, Tremont already held the Deathmatch Down Under Deathmatch Championship, and he defended it a few times in H2O at the beginning of the year, but he would not put it on the line again until he traveled to Australia in November, where he lost it to Callan Butcher in a highly anticipated clash. While still in Australia, he did take part in the 5th Dream Deathmatch tournament, which, by the way, he won last year. This time, though, he wouldn't make it out of the second round as JT Hollow advanced over him and Dmitry Alexandrov. The last major achievement this year that we're going to talk about was also a huge career achievement, because the last major long-running deathmatch tournament Matt Tremont has failed to win was GCW's Tournament of Survival. And this year, he checked that off his list in June. Tremont walked into the showboat the ultraviolet champion, looking to defend his belt in every round, and he did just that, because in the first round, he would take out Jimmy Lloyd in a shocking deathmatch debut of Shotzi Blackheart. He laid waste to the Bev in round 2 and then overcame the numbers game as Vandal 48 tried their best to help Otis Koger win in the finals, but no one was going to deny Tremont this accomplishment.
Matt Tremont has done it. He has held on to his championship and finally won Tournament of Survival here in the Showboat.
The TOS 10 trophy was finally his, and this also marked the 10th career deathmatch tournament win of his career, tying John Wayne Murdoch and Mickey Knuckles with the most in the entire world. This number 1 pick was an easy decision, really, and crazy enough, it may have been one of the more stacked years since I started ranking deathmatch wrestlers. And it just boggles my mind to think in 2025, we get to see Matt Tremont pull out a year as spectacular as this. We as deathmatch wrestling fans had a lot to enjoy this year for sure. And there it is, people, my top 15 deathmatch wrestlers of 2025. But I want to hear from you. Who do you have ranked as the best this year? I don't want you to think that I'm kidding when I say that the quality of matches really stepped up in a big way this year. There was a lot for everybody, no matter what you like to see. I feel like if I just had some more time in my life, I'd be able to easily fill out a top 30 list this year. There was just that much to talk about. That is the one thing I hate about these videos, is there's just so many more other wrestlers out there that I would like to feature more. I would love to add people like Tommy Vendetta, Anthrax, JB Anderson, Slade, Alex Colon, Ricky Shane Page, Nathan Mallory, Malcolm Monroe III, Satu Jin, JJ Escobar, Eric Ryan, Bobby V, Mr. Danger, Alex Stretch, Vixen, Danny DeMonto, and Dmitry Alexandrov, and I guess I should say a lot more others like veterans like Tank, JD Horror, and of course the Necro Butcher. But tough decisions had to be made, so I hope you understand. I want to thank all of the companies and promoters out there who have held so many of these amazing events, but most of all, I want to say thank you to the wrestlers who go out there and beat the ever-loving hell out of each other for our entertainment. That means everything to me as a fan, so for real, thank you so very much. And of course, for those of you who have stuck around all the way to this point right here at the end, thank you very much as well. In the meantime, support independent wrestling, support deathmatch wrestling. Don't be a dick. Don't be a pirate. I'm looking at you. Don't be a pirate, okay? Pay the people who work hard to do what we all love. And I'll see you next time.